Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the College Town Podcast. My name is Derek DeBerger, and with me is Sam Roth.
How we doing?
Well, we talk about it. There weren't a lot of good games, but we talk about the playoff, the college football playoff.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Apparently home field does or doesn't matter depending on who you ask.
Yeah. Crazy idea that maybe playing at home makes you a little bit better. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, we also talk about some surprising coaching changes this late in the cycle for college football. We talk about the transfer portal.
We talk about 26-year-olds being able to play college football.
Yeah, it's dumb. We talk about maybe is Lincoln Riley burning the program to the ground.
Is Lincoln Riley on fire?
Yeah, we talk about Doug Gottlieb and sweet revenge. I don't even know who's getting revenge on him, but sweet revenge.
We give our conference picks on college basketball.
Coppin State broke my heart, and then of course we do our pick'ems for bowl season, and there are a lot of pick'ems. So hope you stay to the end to see the pick'ems and our conference picks for college basketball. We hope you see you in the episode too. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We should just do it. We should just do away with the whole thing.
Do away with what whole thing?
We should just vote on a champion. They shouldn't even play for it anymore.
What are you referring to?
The playoff. They should get rid of it. We should just vote on the champion every year. That's what we should go back to that. Because there's only one team that's good enough to win it anyway.
Is this what the commentators online are saying?
Yes.
The Twitter fingers are getting large?
I'm taking things that people actually say and just heightening it. Like,
it's become a joke.
What was it?
I saw some of this conversation.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is obviously the four games were. I wouldn't say blowouts. How I personally define a blowout is 3 more possessions in football. That might not line. That's not a hard and fast definition. But
if we're being honest here, all the games, it wasn't like you had to watch to the bitter end to know who's going to win it. Like there was not a defining moment where it's like any of these games were remotely close.
I will say, in defense of one team, SMU looked like they should have been up by like 21 or 17 points to start the game because their defense was just shutting down Penn State's offense. They were moving the ball consistently on Penn State's defense, Penn State is a really good defense. They were moving the ball consistently on them. The problem is Kevin Jennings just kept throwing interceptions. He single-handedly killed them. He threw 3 interceptions, 2 of them were pick sixes, and then when Penn State finally scored on their own with their own offense, it was over. Game was over at that point. SMU was just done. The way the game looked, it looked like it would have been a really, really close game.
Had SMU had ball
Penn State,
security.
Yeah, that Penn State probably would have pulled away from Lake just because they have better talent. But they just shot themselves in the foot time and again. So I do want to come to the defense of SMU a little bit.
Okay.
But no, I mean they were all bad games. And then Indiana's the exact opposite. The score is not indicative of how much Notre Dame handled that game. But I mean, do you think? Okay, so obviously there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is why we don't need a 12-team playoff. This is ridiculous. This is why Ole Miss should have been in the playoff." I actually have heard that argument. Which, if you're just going off of like logistics, a team in the playoff losing doesn't mean that the team that didn't make the playoff would not lose or wouldn't lose by worse. Like I remember last year, Alabama playing a good game against Michigan. A bunch of commentators were being like, "Well, this is proof. This is proof Florida State didn't deserve to be in the playoff." And it's like, how do you know Florida State wouldn't go out and win that game or like play a tougher game? Like, what do you mean? It's not proof. One thing happening and another thing not happening because they didn't have the opportunity to happen doesn't prove something. But the question I wanted to ask before I went on that little tirade, do you think that what do you think is the bigger factor here with all these just lopsided games? Do you think it was teams at the bottom not really having a shot? Or do you think it's home field advantage?
seeding. Is what it is. I mean, if Arizona State's in there over other teams, it's a closer game. I think like Ohio State is not a bottom team of they're not the eighth best team in the nation in my opinion. I think part of it's seeding. Like Penn State, I think is better than some teams that were in front of them. It's just the way the seeding was. We have very elite teams in my opinion. Like Tennessee versus Ohio State. I think Ohio State has the potential to win it all this year.
Yeah.
Whereas when I look at a Tennessee team, I don't necessarily think that. But they have to play in the first round because of the way the structure of the playoff is set up. That's the way I feel about it. I don't think it's a home field advantage or whatever because you can go in, cause an upset, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, but every home team dominated.
Every home team did dominate, but I also think that's because I think the gap between 9 to 12 is significantly larger from the gap from 5 to 8. Because that's what I think. I just think it's a matchup thing. If you look at all these games, I mean, what was it? The closest spread was 7 for Indiana against Notre Dame? Every single game was a double-digit spread. So it's I don't know what you expected from these games if you wanted them to be closer. Vegas told you these games were going to be large margins of victory, and they were. I mean, there's no way around it.
I don't factor the odds into it at all.
I mean, if people are putting their money where they want to, this is what the money was saying. I mean, if you want to talk about it, I mean, these games were not on paper going to be close, and they weren't. I mean, I just don't know. I don't think it's a factor of home field advantage or this. I just think simply put, the 4 teams that were at home were the better teams. It's just what it was.
I think home field advantage absolutely plays a factor.
It might. It moves the needle by 2 or 3 points. I think it's a field goal. I don't think it's this amount.
No. This is not just regular home field advantage. This is never before seen playoff home field advantage. These crowds are insane because it's not just yay, we beat Texas A&M or whatever. It's this is the postseason.
So are you insinuating that home field advantage allowed for one of these teams to win over another team? Because I don't think so.
I'm saying it allowed for the blowouts, potentially.
No.
Potentially.
No. I just don't think so. I just simply think that the 4 teams that had home field advantage were way better teams. I mean, if you look at it...
Here's the thing. I don't think Texas is a way better team than Clemson.
I just don't. Well, I think we disagree on that. I think Texas is significantly better than Clemson. The only reason why Clemson got in is because Syracuse beat Miami. Clemson has no right being in this playoff as far as we're concerned.
They do have a right to be in the playoff because they won the ACC.
Yeah, but they wouldn't even be in it. They were on the outside looking in on the last week.
Okay, but that's how the rules work.
I'm aware of how the rules work. I'm just saying they didn't play their way. They didn't play their way in. The cards fell their way for them to get in.
The cards fell their way for them to be able to play their way in.
Yes, precisely.
So they played their way in.
I understand what you're saying on how they beat SMU, right?
Yeah.
But if Texas is significantly better than Clemson.
I just don't think so.
Penn State is significantly better than SMU. Notre Dame looked a lot better than Indiana. In Indiana, if you really look at it, they don't really have a significant win on the year. Every single game.
Who's Texas' a significant win?
Texas' significant win?
Yeah. Their best win is A&M, and
Probably.
I don't think A&M's that good.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, at the same time, though, I still think Texas is a way better team than Clemson.
I don't think it's that big a difference. I don't. I told you, I think whichever team wins, Clemson or Texas, I think they're going to lose to Arizona State because I think Arizona State's better than both of them. That's my view on it. And so I think I did going into this, I thought they were closer. I thought these teams were very evenly matched. Turns out I was wrong. Texas just ran the ball on Clemson because Clemson couldn't do anything to stop it. But even then, Clemson had a chance to cut it to 7. They had a chance to cut it to 7 in the fourth quarter and really make this a ball game. They didn't. I understand that. But I don't think it's I don't think it's so Texas is so far out of reach of Clemson. I just think that they were a little better than Clemson, and they had the home field advantage as well.
How much points do you put on home field advantage?
Sorry.
Like if you were to like
Normally or for this?
for this, what do you value like this?
I
Like
think
how much?
normally it's like 3 points. I think normally what Vegas has as home field advantage is about right. I think it's normally 3 points. But for a playoff game, I don't know, it might be up to like 7, generally. Like the crowds for these games were crazy. It's not just like, and also I've talked about this. I've seen something similar to this, but not exactly like this before, where Cincinnati was literally just one conference championship win away from making the playoff as a group of 5 team at the time. And the American plays their conference championship games at whoever wins the regular season, their stadium. And so that game was played at Cincinnati. They were playing like a 10-2, I think, Houston team, a good Houston team. But that crowd was just raucous. It was insane. They just got in Houston's head immediately. And I know Cincinnati was a better team. I get that too, but the crowd played a factor. It undeniably played a factor. And I think you can't say that it doesn't play a factor. Penn State had like 100,000 people there. They packed that place. It was a whiteout. I don't think you can say that it's just like, well, it's a normal home field advantage. It's not. It's a playoff atmosphere, which we've never seen before in college football. I think the more that we do this, the longer the 12-team playoff goes on, and we see all these games at campus sites, you're going to see, oh my God, the home team just, on average, just dominates the road team. I think that's what we're going to see.
But do you also I just think it's because those are just better teams. Like
you can say that too.
Simple, like,
but I don't think Texas is that much better than Clemson. They're better, sure. They won. They're better. I don't think they're that much better.
All right. I mean, but like, is there any other game like Penn State is better than SMU?
Penn State's better than SMU, but SMU shot themselves in the foot. Like, I think if SMU hadn't shot themselves in the foot, I think that game would have ended like I don't know, 30-20.
What about Ohio State, Tennessee?
I mean, look, I did pick Tennessee. I'll be honest. I picked Tennessee to win the game. But also Tennessee, their schedule was awful. Their best win is Alabama, Alabama's a 9-win team. It's a good win. It's not a great win. And then their losses are to Georgia, which they weren't even competitive with Georgia in the second half, and Arkansas. Arkansas is terrible. So, yeah, I think Ohio State's the better team than Tennessee. I think you can make the argument that Miami should have made it in over Ohio State. I mean, I meant Tennessee. Because Miami's offense is just explosive. I mean, if we're going to have these arguments of, oh, did SMU deserve to be in? Did Indiana deserve to be in? Did Tennessee deserve to be in? Like, we haven't had those arguments yet. But if people out there are having those arguments, why didn't Miami deserve to be in over Tennessee? Because I have a lot more faith in Cam Moore's ability to score on Ohio State than I do Nico Iamaleava's.
Same way Clemson played themselves in, Miami played themselves out. You can't lose late in the season. And they literally lost the last week of the season.
I mean, they lost last week of the season to a ranked team.
Still.
I know. I'm just saying. I mean, you got anything else on them?
No, just think 4 best teams won. Simple as that.
I mean, I will agree with you. I just think that you're understating the value of the home field advantage.
I really don't think I am because, like, I understand it's home field advantage, right? So, like, are you, with that argument, are you going to say, like, Ohio State's better than Oregon? Because they only lost by 3 at Oregon?
No. Because that wasn't a playoff game. That's not what I'm saying. I just think for the playoff games specifically, the environments are crazy.
Okay.
We've seen that. The environments are crazy.
The Ohio State-Tennessee game, I want to say it was at least like 30-35% Tennessee fans.
There were a lot of Tennessee fans there.
It's not exactly a dominating home field advantage.
There were still a lot of Ohio State fans.
Well, yeah. It's in Columbus. I would hope so. But you see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, I know what you're saying for that game, but there were still a lot of Ohio State fans. Even if home field advantage gives you 7 points in the playoffs, they won by more than 7.
All right.
All right. Let's move on. The other bowl games, if you were curious. Memphis beat West Virginia. James Madison beat WKU. UNLV beat Cal in what you called the bowl game without a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sam Houston beat Georgia Southern without a coach. Ohio beat Jacksonville State. I thought Ohio didn't have a coach for this game. Turns out they just promoted their offensive coordinator to head coach. And then pretty much the entire staff was like, well, I'm just going to stay at Ohio. I've got a job here. I'm not going to go to Charlotte.
Okay.
So I was under the impression that both of these teams in the Ohio Jacksonville State matchup were not going to have head coaches. No. Turns out Ohio has a fully formed coaching staff. And it was still a very close game.
Okay.
That was the only matchup between conference champions.
Huh, interesting.
In all of bowl season. Potentially, conference champions could meet in the playoff.
Right.
But
Well,
as of
makes sense.
now, that's the only one.
Because, yeah. Okay.
Tulane, Florida. Oh, my God. This is another one. Tulane's starting and backup quarterbacks hit the portal. I didn't think it would have as big an impact as it did. I don't know why. Tulane couldn't move the ball. It was hopeless. And their defense played okay to start the game, but DJ Lagway looked so good in that game. They looked so good. He looked, oh my God, he looked fantastic. And that's a well-coached defense, too.
Yeah.
Marco Rubio's kid also scored a touchdown in that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a walk-on at Florida.
Huh.
He is skinny.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And they handed the ball off to their, 420-pound...
I saw, 450 whatever
Yeah,
or
he's
something ridiculous.
big guy.
Yeah.
Wanted him to get a touchdown, but he didn't.
Ah.
What other bowl games were there? I think those are all for the bowl games, but there was also the FCS playoffs. South Dakota State lost to North Dakota State in what is the single best game of the playoff this past weekend, of any playoffs. That was a great game.
Okay.
Very back and forth. Came down to a 4th and 17 that South Dakota State couldn't convert on. Very good game. The FBS playoff games were terrible. But, it's the semifinals. So, you compare the semifinals to the first round. But South Dakota State, they lost to Montana State. So, that's going to set up the North Dakota State-Montana State National Championship for the FCS level.
Okay.
Which is in so long from now. It's January 6th.
Good. Guys get to rest up, get a good scout. Hopefully both teams are healthy.
Yeah. This is, I don't know how many years in a row this is going on now that the number 1 seed plays the number 2 seed in the FCS.
They must have got the seeding down pretty well then.
Typically there is a clear and obvious number 1 team in FCS. And then I guess it's not that hard to pick the number 2 team as well. I don't know.
All right.
But yeah, those are the games that happened this past weekend. There's a lot of games. There's going to be even more games this upcoming week.
Yep.
So let's talk about the news.
Yeah.
Mike Vick.
Yeah. That Mike Vick.
Yeah. He's a coach. He's a coach now.
I didn't realize he was a coach.
As of now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just got hired by Norfolk State to be their head coach. Norfolk State is at the FCS level.
Mm-hmm.
He also interviewed with Sacramento State.
Huh.
Interesting enough.
I didn't realize. Does he have like any coaching at the amateur level?
Nope.
Huh.
None whatsoever.
It's an interesting hire.
It is an interesting hire. I like the hire for Norfolk State.
It'll be interesting. It definitely gets some eyeballs on the program now
Mhm.
for a program that is, for lack of better words, not thought after.
Yeah, I mean, like the HBCUs really don't get any like
The love.
they get no love whatsoever
Mm-hmm.
in sports. And I think Deion Sanders he showed the model of how to do it at the FCS level, at least in the short term.
Yeah.
You get a very, very high profile coach,
Mm-hmm. You get talent,
and then that coach brings in talent.
and then once you get talent, you win games. Once you win
Yeah.
games, because let me tell you, you can definitely out talent at this level.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you're genuinely recruiting like 3 stars, 3 and 4 stars,
Because a 4-star is what, basically a top 150 kid, basically top 200 kid, more or less.
so I mean, it depends.
5 stars, there's only usually like
It's anywhere
30
from
of
like
them.
top 300 to top
Right.
150. Yeah,
Because I want to say like there's only like 30 to
They
40
only-
5-stars.
there's only 32. They do it to like. They try to do it to be like, oh, these are the people that we think could be first round NFL picks.
I see. Gotcha.
So if you're recruiting 3 and 4 stars,
You're recruiting NFL talent.
yeah, those are 3 and 4 stars that would make an impact at the FBS level, like power conference football.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it at Norfolk State, you're just gonna. I don't think they're in the SWAC. They're in the other one, the MEAC.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're just gonna roll through the MEAC.
Okay.
Sacramento State, we didn't write this one down, but they, because they didn't get Mike Vick, they hired UNLV's former offensive coordinator,
Okay.
who created his own offense. It's called the Go-Go offense.
Like Wham?
I don't know. I don't know what that means.
That's a song.
I thought it was a band, but
Wham is a band.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, their song "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go."
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know they sung that.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I don't know. It's just Go-Go.
Okay.
Basically, the offense is essentially it's an up-tempo, like triple option,
Okay.
but you pass still. Like it's very common in that offense to see 7 offensive linemen out there, a quarterback, 2 running backs, and then a receiver.
So basically, it's just glorified wheel routes all day.
More or less, yeah.
Gotcha.
It was very effective for UNLV,
Fair enough.
but that's an interesting hire. Another coaching hire. There's a lot of coaching hires late in this cycle that we were not expecting. Dave Clawson resigned at Wake Forest. This happened, I think, like the day that we recorded last week,
Oh, okay.
but it was like later in the day.
Gotcha.
So Dave Clawson resigned. Dave Clawson, not an exaggeration, best coach in Wake Forest football history.
Which is 500. It was
Yeah.
67 and 67.
Wake Forest has the lowest winning percentage of power conference schools.
Nice.
It's terrible. They're historically a terrible program. And if you take away his last 2 years, where they just couldn't retain talent like they used to, he's a much better coach. So it kind of is very impressive what he was able to do at Wake Forest, because that is such a difficult job. It's such a difficult place to win at. And so I think I told Sam off camera when we were talking about this, I think he wants a better job, but because of what has happened the last couple of years, like how he's been unable to win there because they've been unable to retain talent, which is his scheme is very, very, very predicated on identifying, recruiting, maintaining, and then developing talent. And he's been unable to do that. So I think because of that, they have not been winning, and he's not in a position to get a better job. And so he just decided to take a step back. He's remaining with the athletic department until he finds a job. And then they immediately hired his replacement, is Jake Dickert, the Washington State.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that hire?
It's a good hire.
I think it's okay.
It's a win for both because Jake Dieter, as far as we know, has an uncertainty on his program and conference for that matter. So he's going towards a program with much more stability at the moment. And then also on top of that, they get a coach that's winning now and finding ways to win and has put together good players and a good program and very good record.
My problem with Jake Dickert is, so he's done a great job at recruiting.
Yeah.
Like, they have found some absolute gems there.
Mm-hmm.
Between Cam Ward and John Mateer, just at the quarterback position alone.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic gets.
Oh, yeah.
And they have both moved on to better programs.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with Jake Dickert, though, is that he's had these gems that he's uncovered and have just been fantastic players. They haven't really won with them. Like, they went, like, they had, either a 3-win season or a 5-win season last year with Cam Ward at quarterback. And I know they were playing in the toughest conference last year. But still, they had a really disappointing year with how good a quarterback they had. And then this year, they're essentially playing a Mountain West schedule, and they go 8-4.
Yeah.
That 8-4 included losing their last 3 games because they started off 8-1.
Yeah.
I don't know about the hire, especially because Wake Forest is such a difficult place to win at.
I think it's a good hire because at a Wake Forest level, it's not that an attractive job, but it is attractive for a Washington State coach that has uncertainty within his program and the viability. Because we don't know within the next 4 years if Oregon State or Washington State are going to be back in a Power 4 conference, or if
I don't think they will be.
or if they're just going to be slowly dying programs that are going to settle out to the American level.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
So I think with this, at least, if he's able to find a way to win and compete at an ACC level, which at the moment in time is the worst of the Power 4 conferences, then he's going to be able to then he can progress his career through there. I mean, this is definitely a little bit of a step up for him, and I don't think there's any denying that. So why wouldn't he take the jump? And it's also good for Wake Forest because what other coach at his level are you going to be able to attract? I think it's a win-win for both.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plans out. It's funny. I do agree that the ACC is the worst right now, just because I don't think they have the elite of the elite.
They don't.
That they've had in the past. In my mind, that's the only reason they're the worst as of now, because I think the middle is fairly strong in the ACC. What's interesting to me is I've heard there's this push to like glorify the SEC right now and be like, oh, it's the best conference and there's nothing even close. And so I watch the Cover 3 podcast from time to time. Apparently a lot of college coaches watch that, like a lot of college coaches, and they really take their advice seriously. And the Cover 3 podcast, they very often are like, well, if like an Arkansas opens up or Mississippi State or whatever, one of these lower level SEC jobs, you have to jump on it. You have to get it. And they talk about that, but they don't talk about that the same way with the Big Ten. And in my mind, the Big Ten, they don't have as much money as the SEC, but they still have a ton of money. That's an easier place to win at right now. Because, you've got the teams at the top and then whatever team is good that year. But the middle and the bottom of that conference is garbage. It is absolute hot garbage. So if you, and we've seen it with Indiana and Kurt Signetti, if you come in there, you knock it out of the park with the hire, you can just start winning immediately.
You can. You also have to get it right. Kirk Signetti also had the luxury of being able to bring 16 or 17 of his guys over
13.
from 13.
Yeah,
13 of his guys over from his former program, which I think is far and few between. That's very rare to see now. Let's look at this hire. How many is Dietert? However you say his name.
Dickert.
However many players he's going to be able to bring over from Washington State to Wake Forest with him.
I think that's not a 1-to-1 though, just because he was hired so late in the cycle.
I
Like
see.
Kurt Cignetti was hired pretty early on. He was able to.
There is a second window.
There is a second window, but it's not the same. It's not the same. I just think that
I don't know.
a lot of the players that were already going to leave James Madison, they had a landing spot with Indiana. They're like, well, I wanted to leave James Madison to go up, and my coach, who I think is really good, he's going up, so I can follow him. Versus, yeah, Jake Dickert is moving up as far as conference and prestige goes with the jobs. But
not every situation is identical. I'm
No,
not
no,
saying that, but also at the same time, it's like I think the Kirk Cignetti and part of the reason for his success is that he was able to not only bring himself, but also a little bit of the culture that he had pre-established.
But that's what I'm saying is that because he took this job so late in the cycle, a lot of the players that were gonna leave in the portal from Washington State to try and go up, they've entered the portal, and a lot of them found spots already.
Right.
It's not the same of like, oh well, I was already gonna leave, and now my coach he's moving up. I might as well move up with them because now I know I have a spot. They're not all there for the taking necessarily. That's what I think. That's why I think Jake Dickert's not gonna have a mass exodus follow him from Washington State to Wake Forest. But I think Kurt Cignetti could.
Okay.
But I think it still happens. You know, I think you're still going to see it. But yeah, that's the Wake Forest hire.
All right.
More news, more FCS news. The Ivy League has announced that they are going to start accepting bids to the playoff. They get a bid every single year. Did you know this?
For the FCS?
Yes.
No, did not know that.
They have gotten a bid every single year and they turn it down. But starting in 2025, they're going to start accepting the bids. So their champions are actually going to start playing in the playoff. Do you know why they denied the bid for as long as they did?
Finals week. I don't know.
That is exactly it. It's so stupid. It is so dumb. They're like, well, we actually care about academics here in the Ivy League, so we don't accept bids to the playoff because it interferes with finals week. It's like, shut up. Shut up. It's annoying. They do every single thing to like put on the show and dance of like academics always comes first, and it's like everybody knows that the sports are extremely important. They're honestly just as important as the academics, because the academics, the school itself is going to make more money than the sports programs ever will, but the sports programs act as advertisement for the university. Like March Madness is one of the biggest indicators of which school is going to get a massive, massive uptick in applications.
Oh, yeah. It is definitely a thing.
Yeah, and so that's why I've always found this stupid. It's like, no, you play the sports to get people to come to the school. That's why you do it.
There's actually a study on this from the number of Cinderellas in March Madness to correlations to next year's applications.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
It's very interesting. It's funny. I knew the exact study you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is good. I do think because they can't compete in the playoff, or they haven't been accepting their bids that they've been given to the playoffs, that the Ivy League is a step down from the rest of the FCS. But I think once they are able to compete in the playoffs, or once they start accepting bids, and they do start competing in the playoffs, I think you're going to start seeing their talent increase, because it's like, oh, I can go there and I can win a national championship on top of getting a really good education. They still don't offer scholarships for athletics, which is so stupid. So stupid. It's another one of those stupid things where they're like, well, we don't offer scholarships because it's all about the education. No, you don't. You don't do it because you want to save money, you losers. Anyway.
Okay.
I have the same issue with, like, Virginia basketball. They're like, well, we only accept transfers that meet our academic standards. Shut up. Help out your coaching staff. Just take in some transfers. That's what every school does. Just take in transfers. Stanford's the same way. Michigan was the same way until they hired Dusty May. It's just so stupid. It's so dumb, I think.
Hey, their best player right now, Michigan, came from Yale, so
Is he their best player?
Danny Wolf is pretty.
I know he's really good, but I didn't know he was their.
Yeah, he's.
I know they have
looking
Vlad
very
Golden. They've got some other guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, good for the Ivy League. I think this is a good decision.
Yeah.
What I don't think is a good decision. Did you like that transition?
Yeah.
What I don't think is a good decision is that a judge granted Diego Pavia an injunction on his lawsuit, meaning he can play in 2025.
So, for those of you who are unaware of the situation, Diego Pavia basically was a JUCO for a year or two. I forget how long.
It was 1 year.
1 year he was a JUCO, and he made the argument. He's making the argument in court right now, as it stands, that his JUCO year should not count towards his college eligibility. Well, with this injunction, he's allowed to play for another year, and if law repeats itself as it does most of the time, with the ruling, this will allow. This is not the correct way of saying this.
I know.
But long story short, this can open up the floodgates to where JUCO years will not count towards collegiate years.
Yeah, and I think it's incredibly stupid. Here's the thing. I get the rationale behind the judge granting the injunction, because if you go through the motions of the case and then you settle it and you decide, oh yeah, Diego Pavia is right. Well, if that decision comes in the summer of 2026, well, he's just missed out on a whole year.
Right, exactly.
And so you want to be able to let this one kid play that's trying to get it solved.
But
I just don't buy into the argument that
I don't either.
JUCO years shouldn't count, because you're still playing college sports.
You are.
Just because it's not as high profile a program to where you can make as much money doesn't, Diego Pavia is doing this because he doesn't have an NFL future.
Right.
Just because you want to make a little bit more money, I get that, but you already played a year at JUCO. You played football at the collegiate level. It should count.
Yeah.
This doesn't. I've heard a lot of people saying oh, JUCO years just don't count anymore. That's not what this ruling is. The injunction,
it could be.
It kind of opens the door for that, which is upsetting.
It's honestly hilarious, because with this ruling, not only have they, we've said the argument before this doesn't make collegiate sports semi-professional. It practically makes it professional. The reason for it, that I'm going to get to it, is if JUCO doesn't count towards your eligibility, guess what? Collegiate sports now officially has a minor league.
Yeah, you're right. This is very much. This is just was it like the Premier League and the Champions League?
No. This is like AAA ball versus Major League Baseball.
Yeah, you're right. That is better.
Yeah, so it's
comparison.
And so we've kind of already seen it where there's roster spots that aren't available for certain players now, to where coaches will tell guys to go JUCO rather than go to a different program of sorts, and then an opportunity could appear. Well, now this is allowing that, and we could honestly start seeing, if kids decide to go this route, 26, 27-year-olds playing college sports.
Yeah. And to me, on
a regular basis, at all levels. Forget, you could see a collegiate 27-year-old basketball player between medical redshirt themselves. Because think about it. You play 2 years at JUCO, you redshirt, you have a medical redshirt. By then you're 22, and then you have 4 years of eligibility.
Yeah.
So it is.
You're 26, your senior year.
Yeah.
Look, so we've talked about Cam Rising on the show. It's not a guarantee that he's going to play football, but he does have a medical red shirt out there for him if he chooses to use it. In the situation specifically of Cam Rising, I don't have a problem with it, because the NCAA made their bed, and they've just got to lay in at that point. They made the
COVID year?
Yeah, they did the COVID year. They allowed that to not count. They the original transfer rule, before the one-time transfer. Mm-hmm. He had to sit out, so that's another year. So basically, they gave someone like Cam Rising 2 years because of their own rules.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with it just because that's the NCAA, like, kind of being stupid. It's like, okay, if you want to be stupid, this guy gets to play until he's 26.
Yeah.
Which, if he does play next year, he would be 26.
Yeah.
The difference with this, though, is that this is just people like, oh, my best scholarship offer coming out of high school is like Middle Tennessee. No, I'm just gonna go play JUCO. I'm gonna get better at JUCO, and then 2 years we're gonna see what my best offer is then, because I'll still have the same exact years of eligibility.
Yeah, it really comes down to, also with recruiting, it's like, if eligibility is not going to count towards JUCO, what is to prevent? I mean, honestly, why wouldn't you? If a JUCO is going to offer you playing time, like, why not go somewhere where you're going to play, going to get minutes? It doesn't count towards anything, and then you're going to be better than these 18-year-olds that are coming out of high school, and the cycle is just going to repeat itself. It is going to be the way of for any of these low tier 3, 2 stars, 4 stars even, that aren't going to get playing time at these elite level programs.
Yeah, or even just like good programs, not even elite, just good.
No.
You're going to see a lot of people like, oh, my best Power 5 offer is like, I don't know, just pick a school, Auburn. Like, nah, I will go play JUCO or whatever. Like, and another like group that this hurts is Division 2 and 3 and FCS.
Oh yeah,
it's going to kill them.
Oh yeah,
like the product of those sports. If this actually goes through, if the judge sides with Diego Pavia on the case ultimately, I mean, this is gonna. I think it's gonna ruin lower level college sports.
The gap is going to get wider between high tier programs and very low tier programs.
It's. I try to avoid being hyperbolic with a lot, because a lot of people were like, oh, NIL, it's a wild west right now, it's ruining college sports. I don't think it's ruining college sports, but NIL there need to be like actual rules set in place. I get that. If this happens, it will ruin Division 2 and 3 sports.
I also think it'd be interesting to see if there isn't going to be some sort of partnership developed between JUCOs and higher tier programs, where it's like, hey, we're Alabama, we're Oregon,
like
we're
a feeder
Texas.
school.
We're like, hey, we don't have a spot for you right now, but we want you to develop down here for a couple of years, and when you're ready, we'll bring you up. And I think that's a real possibility, because that is exactly what the minor leagues are. It is a development league for the major league. Same thing with G League and NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of sports have it. We are just not getting it at a collegiate sports level.
Do you want to hear a funny story?
Sure.
About before the one-time transfer rule got implemented in college. So the rule used to be is if you transferred from at the same level, you had to sit out a year, unless you were a graduate or transferring up. So if you transfer from D2 to D1,
right,
then you didn't have to sit out.
Right.
Rick Pitino at Louisville, he had Stephen Van Treese on his roster, and he was like, oh, he's already redshirted. I don't think he's going to play this year because he's not good enough. What he wanted to do is he wanted Stephen Van Treese to transfer to Bellarmine and get playing time at Bellarmine, get better at Bellarmine, and then so he could bring in some like a graduate transfer or someone and like have someone that's going to play and contribute to the team. And then the next year after that transfer graduates, have Stephen Van Treese transfer back to Louisville so he could play immediately. That's what he wanted to do. And then I think someone got in his ear and they're like, I think the NCAA might find something wrong with that. But coaches have had that thought. Coaches have wanted to do that for a long time.
Which it makes sense. It's like, if you see a kid with potential, but the ability is not there at the current moment in time, you develop those skills to hopefully reach your potential, be ready to hit the field.
Yeah.
Or court or whatever.
Yeah, if you got Tuscaloosa Junior College, there's no reason that wouldn't happen at Alabama.
I mean, seriously, what is to stop any major program in any sport, for this matter, at any level, men, women, you name it,
Nothing.
from having farm systems.
Absolutely nothing. And, like, I've taken joy in seeing the NCAA just get absolutely killed in court. It's been fun. But at a certain point, there does have to be rules. The NCAA does have to be able to implement rules. If those rules are bad, challenge it in court. I don't care. But just because you don't like being able to do whatever you want doesn't mean that it's bad. What we're talking about, this future, should not be a reality, because it's just like Sam said, it's going to just perpetuate this never-ending cycle of, well, coming out of high school, 90% of players aren't good enough on an FBS roster, and so they're going to be forced to go play JUCO to not burn any eligibility, and then once they're done at JUCO, they're going to go back essentially into recruitment, and they're going to be better than the high schoolers coming out.
Now, mind you, this is only going to be a certain level of recruit. Your 5-stars and 4-stars that are plug and plays are going to be able to hit the fields and the courts right away.
Yeah.
We've seen it on an elite level. Think Caleb Downs for Alabama, then Ohio State. Or even just think of right now, you just look at Rutgers' basketball program with Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper.
Sitting at 7-5.
Yeah. Or Derek Queen at Maryland. Cooper Flagg at Duke. All playing very well ball.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know Derek Queen and Cooper Flagg, same high school team?
Did not.
There's an argument to be made. This is a side tangent. There's an argument to be made of this Mount Verret team because, I mean, they have them two. They have Liam McNeely. We're on the same high school team. They have an argument to have their starting 5 all go within the first round this year. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I don't think Liam McNeely was the top 5 pick, but
No, not top 5, but like first rounder.
oh, did you say first round, not top 5?
First
Okay.
rounder.
Oh, you said starting 5.
Starting 5, yeah.
I misheard that.
No worries.
This is a side note. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't really plan to talk about this. I think Cooper Flagg's good.
He's very
I think
good.
he's very good. I think he's the number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a little overrated.
I mean,
And I don't think it's his fault necessarily.
Well, I mean, like, the hype around this guy has been pretty insane.
Yeah, the hype around him was like he's the next Wemby. Like he's the generational talent.
I didn't get that.
Oh, I heard that. I heard that. I heard this guy is a once in a generation recruit. And he's good. He's really, really good.
He's very good.
He's the best player on his team.
Yeah.
He's not a once in a generation recruit.
Generation, no, but he's definitely
really
the best
good
player in this class.
And I think he's going to be the number 1 pick. I think he deserves to be the number 1 pick. It's just he was too build up. Just saying.
He's pretty good at the basketball.
No, he is very good. I just don't think he's generational.
This just gives semantics.
Well, it's just that's what a lot of people are saying about him. Anyway,
Okay.
There's more basketball news because, why not?
Why not?
An unintentional good segue. Louisiana, mid-major, high major, probably mid-major.
In basketball?
Yeah, mid-major, right?
Sure. I mean, I don't remember a Louisiana team ever making a not a playoff. Gosh, it was in basketball mode.
Making the tournament.
Tournament. Yeah.
Anyway, Louisiana, their coach who's been there for 15 years, Bob Martin.
Mm-hmm.
He's been dismissed.
Yeah.
He got dismissed and then fired.
Huh.
No one really knows why.
Well, they kind of sucked this year. They
do, but from what I could gather, it doesn't seem like it's from on the court stuff.
Well, they're like 3-15 right now. Looking at the record,
they're not great. They've named Derek Zimmerman, who's their top assistant, the interim. That's just a weird situation. Is that they just dismissed this guy who's been there, and he's been decent there for 15 years. But he's gone now, and no real indication as of why. But it doesn't seem to be for basketball performances. That's just a weird one. Let's get through it quick. Penn State, we talked about the Final Four. Penn State won the volleyball national championship.
Yep.
Very unhappy about that.
Yeah. very good program, very good team.
Wins their 8th ever national championship.
Didn't
which
realize
is-
their coach had stage 2 breast cancer.
Yep.
So congratulations to her. First women's coach to win a national championship.
In women's volleyball.
Yeah.
Most insane stat.
How about that?
It's insane.
She's probably also the first person to win it with breast cancer at the same time.
I would imagine.
So yeah.
They beat Louisville. Louisville didn't have their best player because
She got hurt.
yeah, she rolled her ankle in the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's that quick a turnaround, you're not going to be able to play. It's a what if. It's a what if for us because we're both Louisville fans. Whatever.
Yeah.
Not in love with it. It's
Congratulations to the Lions.
So move on to the talking points and whatnot.
Yeah, let's go for
Do you want to talk about USC first? Or you want to talk about transfer portal?
Let's do USC, and then we'll segue into it.
Yeah, because it does relate. We just want to know what's going on down there. What's going on down there in USC? We're a little bit late to this, but there seems to be a little bit of a dumpster fire going on.
It is a...
They've had they've had a lot of players transfer out. A lot of players. Specifically, the ones of note are every single 5-star that Lincoln Riley has recruited there and the majority of 4-stars out of high school. They've all transferred out. And that leaves them with like a few 4-stars and mostly 3-stars. That's not hope inducing.
I mean, like, the level of play that we saw from Lincoln Riley at USC for when they were in the Pac-12 was elite level. They had a very good quarterback, and then the defense wasn't there, and so...
Neither was the offensive line.
And also fell off, right? And then they moved to the Big Ten, and you're like, okay, let's see what they have, and turns out it's kind of mediocre. It's just meh. When you think about USC's season this year, first year in the Big Ten, and you go, okay, like Washington, Oregon, USC, those are big contributors that should help the football program in the Big Ten. Turns out it was just Oregon this year to make a decent splash.
I mean, I wasn't surprised that Washington didn't contribute.
No, they lost a lot. They lost a lot of talent.
And
they lost their coach.
yeah.
Right. USC, though, the only thing they really lost was their number 1 Heisman winner quarterback.
Yeah.
Number 1 pick.
Number 1, draft pick.
Right.
Heisman winner.
Of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
And on top of that, they're starting to lose coaches on their staff. Ince, we talked about it. He went to Fresno State. He became their head coach. He's the former North Dakota State head coach. Which, I'll be honest, I don't think Ince is that good. But whatever. They also lost their offensive coordinator. And it is a weird loss because he's the offensive coordinator at USC. He leaves not to go take a coaching job or anything, like a head coaching job or anything. He becomes Purdue's offensive coordinator. That's a downgrade.
is it?
Yes, that is absolutely a downgrade.
I mean, there is an argument to be made that the writing's on the wall at USC and that there's
That's
something going
that's
on.
what I think it is.
There's got to be a smoking gun within there. There's something going on.
There's absolutely smoke.
Because when Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to take the USC job and you saw the offer that he got, you're like, holy crap, why wouldn't he take this? And he brought along with him the best player in the nation
pretty
at
much
the
the
time.
entire team.
Right. And they kind of rinsed and repeated in some form of fashion and were decent. They weren't as successful, but...
Well, they had a great year 1 to start.
Right.
They were 11-1 heading into the Pac-12 championship.
Right. And so, and ever since then, it's started to fall off. And
fast.
And if you're a 5-star and 4-star recruit and the expectation is at least being able to compete for a national championship, you have not been able to do that at USC.
No.
So it does beg the question, what standard is it at USC? And also with just the way that they have to fly and play in the Big Ten, I wonder if that's also a factor as well. You know?
I do know what you're saying because I think it is a factor, but like I think because you didn't see Oregon have this problem, I think the bigger factor is that he does seem to be failing in many areas as a coach. And I've heard the argument that, oh, this is just the second program that Lincoln Riley's ruining. Lincoln Riley didn't ruin Oklahoma. Oklahoma, I think, made not the best hire. I think Brent Venables is fine. I don't think he's elite. And on top of that, I've also heard the argument that Lincoln Riley was only good with Bob Stoops as players. Lincoln Riley was there for like 6 years. They never lost more than 2 games. At a certain point, it's his own players, and they were still elite with his own players. And so I don't think by any means it was Lincoln Riley he couldn't get it done with his own players. I think there's something else going on. So he clearly was not really paying any attention to defense.
No.
And it showed very quickly at USC because their defense was atrocious. Their defense, first 2 years, was atrocious. Alex Grinch was terrible, and he just took way too long to fire him. And once he started actually like putting effort into like we need to build out a good coaching staff, we need good players on defense, the defense improved. The problem is I don't think he's putting that same focus into the offensive line because the offensive line has been terrible since he's gotten there. And they were able to mask it for the first year and a half because Caleb Williams is just that electric at the quarterback position.
Yep.
The problem is it didn't work in the second half of last year because they started off 6-0, they finished 1-5. And then this year they have Miller Moss, who's not Caleb Williams. As good as Miller Moss could be, he's not Caleb Williams.
No, he's not.
And so Miller Moss. Miller Moss, this is a fun little stat for you. In all of FBS, had the shortest amount of time before there was pressure on him. And what I don't know exactly what constitutes as pressure because the amount of time was very short. It's 0.4 seconds. He basically had a clean pocket for 0.4 seconds on average, which is terrible.
It's very bad.
Awful. And so, like, Lincoln Riley is such a good X's and O's coach. Like, he's so good. He's a phenomenal quarterback whisperer. But there's clearly something lacking. And I think all the coaches and the players, they kind of see the writing on the wall.
Yeah. I think what's damning is that you have a incredibly talented quarterback in Caleb Williams, right? For what, 2 years at USC? Was it 2 years at USC or just one?
It was 2.
It was 2 years at USC, and you couldn't even compete for a national championship. At all the resources that USC has to offer, you couldn't compete for a national championship. Like, you had what most people are, it was a Heisman winner. You had, like, Caleb Williams was so talented, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, a quarterback can lead a team for the most part through some wins and stuff. I think it's very damning and very telling that he had that level of talent at USC and couldn't get something done. So what is to say that he was going to be able to do it with less talent in years to come?
Yeah, but so far there's nothing saying that. I stand by. I think he's one of the best coaches in the sport. I think his offenses are genius. I think he's so amazing at developing players. But you can't just, if you're the head coach, you can't just be an offensive coordinator. And I think that's what he's been trying to do. It worked at Oklahoma for a little bit. But even at the end, there were like some cracks were starting to show. Like their defense was bad at the end. The same issues defensively followed him. I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. And his seat was already getting hot. This just turned up the temperature.
Yeah.
So if he's got another like 500 year, I think he's gone.
Could be.
But all right. Well, let's talk about the rest of the transfer portal at large. It keeps going. The number of people entering the portal is slowing down because this is the final week of the portal window being open, that is. So the number of people entering their names are slowing down. We are starting to get more and more people committing to places. Some big names John Mateer from Washington State, we talked about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to Oklahoma, which most people were expecting that. The offensive coordinator of Washington State left Washington State to become the offensive coordinator of Oklahoma.
I got you.
And a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's gonna take John Mateer with him." That's what ended up happening.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this is what I heard from. I don't remember where it was. I don't remember if it was like On3 or someone. But apparently, Oklahoma, their NIL deal, it basically got matched. Like it was as good as Miami, and then even a late push UNC. Both Miami and UNC offered pretty equal NIL deals as Oklahoma, and the only reason John Mateer ended up committing to Oklahoma is apparently Baker Mayfield called him and was like, "Look, Oklahoma's great," and he was like, "Okay, we'll go there." So Baker Mayfield, the closer, couldn't close out last night, Sunday Night Football. Oh, well, what are you going to do? I didn't need to drag that man's name through the mud like that. Oh, well. Caden Salter committed to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got their replacement to Shador. I don't know about this one.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. I mean, he's all the way there. I just think Jamie Chadwell's a great coach, and I think he makes quarterbacks look better than they are. But we'll see. Anthony Calandria, someone we've talked about, he's actually committed to UNLV.
It's interesting.
It is interesting. I think he's a good quarterback. He'll lose some games for you, but he will absolutely keep you in games that you have no right to be competitive in. I think that's the type of quarterback he is.
All right.
And then, of course, Dabo. He took a couple transfers.
He is.
I mean, look at Dabo.
He did do one last year.
He won.
Yeah, he's got two. He's doubled it.
He is.
Brought in an edge and a wide receiver.
This time next year, he'll have 4.
Oh. Watch out.
So this leads me to something that I find very interesting.
Okay.
And that is, who is Miami going to get at quarterback? Because so the only quarterback they have on roster that's going to be there next year and could compete for the starting job, and I think could do a fine job at it, is Emory Williams. The problem is Emory Williams, he's going to be a redshirt sophomore next year. He's coming off of that broken arm. He was good in the very limited time that he got, but it does feel like Miami wants they want a quarterback in the portal. And the problem is quarterbacks are drying up right now. So we talked about all the ones that have committed already. John Mateer, they were going after pretty heavy. So the only names that are in the portal that I think are notable names. Fernando Mendoza, which that's one to look out for. A lot of the buzz around Fernando Mendoza is that he's looking at 2 places, Indiana and Miami. Indiana, because his brother is a backup quarterback there. And it's like, well, might as well play with your brother, I guess. Miami, apparently he's from Miami.
Oh.
But not only is he from Miami, he shares the same high school alma mater as one Mario Cristobal. So there's going to be something there. That is a big name still left in the portal. But to me, that's the only big name left. There's Aaron Nolan, who is a 5-star high school recruit. He's transferring from Ohio State because I think he sees the writing on the wall that Quinn Ewers is probably going to go to Ohio State next year.
Oh, is that really what that is?
I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think that's guaranteed, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Going into the draft?
I don't think so.
Huh.
I think Ewers is going to be at Ohio State next year, and then even after Ewers' run is done there, I think Julian Sayin is the heir apparent. So Aaron Nolan transferred. He's very physically gifted. That's still taking a risk. It could pay out, but it's a risk. You got Matthew Saluka if you want him, but he was a runner over a passer, so I don't think that's a good get.
I think that's all that there really is, notably.
Yeah, I mean Malachi Nelson is out there, but the thing is,
he didn't even start.
He couldn't start over Maddox Madsen.
Right. So
Maddox Madsen is not very good. So at this point, I don't think Malachi Nelson's good, despite being the former #1 high school recruit.
We also do have another window. Also to note as well, all these teams, like you mentioned, Quinn Ewers, he's playing in the playoff right now. There's still 8 teams that have not put any starters into the portal yet because they're still competing.
Yeah.
So there is still the elite of the elite available, and there probably is definitely some tampering going on there.
Absolutely.
But we'll see what is to come of that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the only other quarterback that's left in the portal that I think maybe Miami could go after is DeQuan Finn.
So
Basically the point is that it's getting slim pickings for Miami, and I think that's the only reason they were good this year is because they had Cam Ward.
it's also just so unfortunate because you have like teams like Ohio State, right? Where like the rumor out there right now is like if Ryan Day doesn't win national championship, he's on the chopping block.
Which I think is silly, personally.
I mean, hasn't been able to beat Michigan, hasn't been able to compete for a Big Ten championship past couple of years. Only reason why they're in right now is because of an 8 seed and expanded playoff. There's an argument to be made there. Has over an $11 million, $10 million, multi-million, like double-digit million-dollar roster on staff.
Yeah.
Like everything's there for him to succeed. The rumor is that Mike Vrabel's in waiting for wanting that job.
I've not heard that rumor.
That is a rumor.
That's a crazy one.
So, honestly, I felt like if you're Ohio State, you either want to win it all, obviously, or you wanted to lose last week to Tennessee, just so that way you could get the ball rolling on this.
It's interesting.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But that's what's going on in the portal. Another quick one. You remember that kind of like Drive to Survive-esque documentary that Netflix was doing about the SEC? What is it, Final Swing?
Sure.
We talked about it.
I haven't watched it, but sure.
Well, no, it hasn't come out yet.
Okay, yeah.
They filmed it this past season.
I see.
Or I guess this season. It did come out that there were 5 teams in the SEC that declined to be featured in it. Basically, they declined to have the camera crew follow them around. Those teams are Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas, and Oklahoma. I only counted 4 fingers, but that's 5 teams.
Fair enough.
I don't know why I did 4.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, those are some big programs that declined to be on it. I think it's kind of silly. I think it's dumb. All this is going to do is help your brand.
It could or it could hurt it.
It could hurt it. A team that it might hurt is Kentucky. So Kentucky, the camera crews only followed Kentucky around for 2 games. You want to know what those 2 games were?
What 2 games?
South Carolina and Louisville. Both of those games, they got destroyed in. They were not competitive in either of those games. And the funny thing is, the Louisville game, this is where my mind immediately went to when I heard they were there for the Louisville game. At the Louisville game, one of Kentucky's players who was injured, couldn't play in the game, he left the sidelines during the middle of the game to go to the concession stand.
What?
Yeah.
No. I didn't know
Yes, that is a real story. And I want there to be a line like, hey, did you know Doug's at the concession stand? What? What do you mean? No, he's not. Yeah, he's at the concession stand in his warm-ups right now, buying a hot dog and a pretzel or whatever.
What?
There's literally a picture of one of Kentucky's injured players who couldn't play in the game because of an injury. He's wearing like a hoodie, sweatpants, and his jersey over the hoodie or whatever he was wearing. He's literally in line at the concession stand. And it was confirmed that was real. That wasn't like staged. There wasn't like missing context or anything. It wasn't like doctored. That was a real photo. That's very funny. God, I can't wait to see this documentary now. I'm very excited. But I think, at the end of the day, I think Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas, Oklahoma, I think them passing on it, incredibly stupid. Incredibly stupid. But let's move on to basketball. We got basketball, and then we got the pick'ems.
Okay.
So let's talk about Doug Gottlieb. You know Doug Gottlieb?
No.
Doug Gottlieb is a radio host, media personality. I think he's an idiot. Everyone hates him. He played college basketball. I think he played 2 years at Notre Dame, and then he transferred to Oklahoma State. He played 2 years at both schools. I don't remember what transfer, how it took place, but he played 2 years at both schools. So he's a former D1 college basketball player.
Okay.
He's a media guy. People kind of universally hate him. He prior to the season had 0 head coaching experience, and but he was still very like openly trying. Every single time there was an opening at Oklahoma State, he was desperately trying to get that job. Every single time, and he never could get it. Well, I think he finally decided, you know what? If I can't get it off of no experience, I'll get some experience, and then maybe Oklahoma State will want to hire me. So he took the opening at Green Bay, who is historically a pretty proud mid-major program. They've made it to the NCAA a number of times, the tournament a number of times. They've won tournament games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not doing so hot. They're pretty bad, actually. They're pretty bad. They're currently 2-9, with a 9-game losing streak. He decided that, yes, I'm going to be a Division I head basketball coach, but I'm still going to do my 2 to 3 hour radio show every single day. So there are a number of games that they play in the morning because he still wants to be able to do his radio show. So they'll play a game at like 10 or 11 a.m. so that he can get done in time to do his radio show. One such game was they played Division II opponent Michigan Tech, and in the pregame press conference that he did, he was talking about the game, and he was like, I didn't want to play this game. This was contractually obligated before I got here. I did not want to play this game. He's like, I hate playing these types of games. He's like, because if you go out there, when you beat nobody you, those are his exact words. When you beat nobody you by 20 points, you don't learn anything about your team. Which, for starters, yes, you do. That's a dumb thing to say. That shows this man can't coach. You think you don't learn anything about your team in a 20-point win? Even if you're playing nobody? Like, if you're playing a D2 opponent, that just goes to show his stupidity as a coach. Because there's absolutely things to take away from those types of games. But then the icing on the top is that they played Michigan Tech, and they lost. Literally hours after he gave his nobody you comments, they lost by 2 points to Michigan Tech. And then he called in sick to his radio show that day. That they played, the game that they played at 11 a.m. so he could do his radio show, he called in sick. Oh, God, it's so funny. It's so funny. This is a horrible head coaching hire. Like, it's nothing short of a disaster.
Okay.
And I'm thrilled to watch it, personally. Something I was thrilled to watch that the fire in me, it's kind of died a little bit. Coppin State was on a 25-game losing streak, and
They were.
I loved it. I don't really revel in others losing, but when it's on such a level like this, I kind of enjoy it. It's fun.
Okay.
The adorable losers, isn't? Anyway, Coppin State won.
They did.
I'm really upset about it. They beat Navy.
They
It
did.
was like 68-60.
62, I think. Yeah.
It was still a terrible score, terrible game.
Hey, dub is a dub.
A dub is a dub, and they got a dub.
They did.
They're now like, I don't know. They're like 1 in like 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's disappointing. Whatever. The next longest losing streak now is Chicago State. And they play in my favorite conference of all time, the Northeastern Conference, or the NEC. Chicago State's a really, really interesting program to me because they try to play like 23 games before January every year. They literally, they're like 0-14 right now. They try to play as many games before the new year as possible just because I think they try to squeeze in as many of those like checks.
Get those check games.
Yeah, they play nothing but check games.
There you go. Maybe it's how they fund their program.
That's got to be it, because they play so many of those. And they were actually it's really interesting. They were independent until this season. They were an independent basketball team until this season.
Okay.
They were not in a conference. You don't hear that very often.
No, you don't.
But yeah, we'll see if they can hit that elusive 42-game losing streak.
All right.
How do you feel personally about my rooting for others' failures?
I have no qualms about it. No opinion.
All right, I was just curious.
Just, hey, if that's what you like doing, man, good for you.
I just
Enjoy the misery of others.
it's not even like
What
it's
do
a
you-
little Schadenfreude.
What are you, like Scrooge of like college basketball?
It's just that when it becomes a story in and of itself, I take a little pleasure in it.
Okay.
Just a little, because
There you
it becomes fun. Because I want to see them lose on a historic level, and then I want to see them come back. Like I want Chicago State to be the first team to ever lose 50 games in a row, and then I want them to like make the Sweet 16.
All right.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
It would be.
All right. So before we get into our pick'ems, we're gonna do a version of pick'ems, if you will,
Let's do it.
and we're gonna do some conference pick'ems, because conference play is about to start in college
It is.
basketball, and it gets into full swing, and I love it.
I love it too.
But
I'm excited.
yeah,
for
most
this.
most teams have not played the bulk. They've not gotten into the bulk of their conference play yet.
The only conference it kind of has is the Big Ten.
A little. They've played multiple.
They played a couple. Yep.
But I mean, they've been doing that for a little bit now, where they play 2 non-conference games in
Before the New Year.
Yeah, before the New
Traditionally, the New Year is a sign of when conferences kick into full swing, and that's when basketball truly matters.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through some of the major conferences and pick who we think are gonna win the conference. Let's do regular season and the tournament.
I will do however many of these you want. I am fully invested in basketball. We could do all 32 for all I care.
It's 31.
For all 32, because I just made up one.
That's the Sam League.
It is.
All right.
I'm invested.
We're just gonna do some of the ones that I think are good.
Okay.
We're gonna start with the A10.
Okay. It's between two, in my opinion. It is Dayton and VCU.
Interesting.
St. Bonaventure is undefeated right now, or was undefeated for a good while.
They're 12-1.
But they haven't really been tested, in my opinion. Whereas Dayton has gone out and they've played in a very hard games, and they've won a good bit of them. I'm going to lean towards Dayton, second place VCU, and it's between those two for the tournament as well.
I'm gonna pick Dayton as well to win the regular season. However, I do think St. Bonaventure has been tested. They played Utah State, who I think is very good this year, and they lost to them by 5.
Interesting.
It was a home game, so I think that just goes to show how good Utah State is, personally.
It's kind of hard for the tournament because it's just like who's hot come into February.
Yeah. As far as the tournament goes, I don't know. Give me St. Bonaventure. I like St. Bonaventure.
Okay.
I do. I like the A10 this year. I think they got some good teams.
I think they could have like 2, maybe 3 teams get in.
I think 2 is appropriate, even though I think that's a little upsetting because I do think they have good teams.
Yeah.
But I think they're only going to get 2 in.
It was going to be more fun with what I thought St. Louis was going to be there, but they just have fallen off the wheels with Robbie Avila's injury.
Yeah.
It's not what we thought this team was going to be.
I mean, it's year 1 for a new coach.
Well,
essentially.
Chicago isn't bad either. They just same thing, for my opinion, in St. Bonaventura. They just haven't been tested. So it's like
Loyola actually has been tested, and they've lost the 2 games against opponents with pulses.
yeah. So it's one of those.
Yeah. So that is Loyola was a little disappointing because I liked them, and I think they're like 1-2 in their last 3 games, and their 2 losses are to the 2 best teams they played.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the ACC.
Duke next.
Yeah, I know it's Duke.
I mean,
Duke, and it's probably Duke again.
It's kind of interesting though because like looking at the conference itself, it probably has. I was saying this earlier, like maybe 2 conference teams. It's probably more closer to 4, maybe 5. Right now, as it stands, I think it's probably Duke, Clemson, Pitt, and UNC with maybe an SMU sneaking in.
I think the teams from the ACC that could sneak into the tournament, because SMU started off the year, they were playing terrible basketball.
Right.
They are playing so much better.
I think there could be 4, maybe 5 teams from the ACC that can make the tournament right now, as it stands.
Yeah, I think SMU. We'll see what Stanford does.
I don't think Stanford's that great.
I don't think so either, but they do have a good record. I know it's because they played nobody.
Mm-hmm.
But SMU, Stanford, Wake Forest, or Louisville. I think any of them, if they go on a run in the ACC, which is very, very possible, I think could sneak into the tournament.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's Duke for both.
All
Like
right.
I don't see how you can pick against them right now. Big 12.
I'm loving the way Iowa State's playing right now. Iowa State is very, very good. I still think they have the 6th man of the year in Curtis Jones. Their backcourt in Tatum Litzy and Keyshawn Gilbert is playing lights out right now. They're playing very well. Second place for me, even though they've lost every major game that they've played, I still think it's Houston. And then in the 3rd place and close is Kansas for me.
I mean, I'm kind of right there with you.
As the way it stands, I still think, though,
I think I would put
any of those 3 could win it.
I think Kansas is better than Houston this year. I think I think they're going to take a step back. But I agree with you. Iowa State is the team to beat right now.
They are the team to beat.
They look really good.
And then, for the tournament, it depends on what teams are getting hot. I mean, if Baylor can figure out, which I don't think they will, Texas Tech, I don't think they'll figure it out. But I will say, for a fun, sneaky pick, give me Cincinnati.
I will say, I'm not a believer in Cincinnati personally, but Baylor, 2 of their top 4 players are freshmen. VJ Edcombe and Wright. I can't remember his first name, but
right.
So they do have. They're not starting at very close to their ceiling, so there's a lot of room for improvement there. But yeah, Baylor is currently sitting at 7-3, with all 3 losses being kind of ugly losses to good teams. So Baylor's definitely not what we thought they were preseason, but it is what it is. Speaking of a team that's not what we thought they were preseason, Big East, Georgetown's 10-2. And they blew the brakes off of Creighton.
Yes. From what I've gathered this year, as far as the Big East is last year they only had 3 teams make the tournament. This year they will only have 3 teams make the tournament.
Yep, probably.
It is a Marquette, St. John's, and UConn era. Ryan Kalkbrenner cannot carry a Creighton team save his life, but one player that can carry a team is Cam Jones of Marquette. My, oh my, is he so dang good.
Yeah.
R.J. Luis is carrying St. John's like you wouldn't believe it either right now, too. The very, very good teams, very, very good squads. Personally, I'm going to edge towards Marquette because they are 3 deep at the guard position, and they are, scrappy.
Yeah.
And they play fast.
They have serviceable bigs as well.
Yes.
They obviously they're not anywhere near as good as they were last year with losing Iguodaro.
Iguodaro and as well as Tyler Kolek.
Yeah, but he's a point guard.
Yeah. But
yeah,
Stevie Mitchell, Cam Jones, they're going to lead that backcourt. I still have massive faith in Marquette to win this.
I'm with you. I'm taking Marquette for both the regular season and the tournament.
I think it could be any one of those 3 in the tournament, but I think Marquette as a whole can eke it out.
I got to be honest, I'm kind of rooting for Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
They've been so down. They're such a good program historically, and they've been so down recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they are finally on the up and up. I talked about it last year. I was like, look, they suck this year, but they made the right hire. They're going to be good. And, of course, I love Shaheen Holloway. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country.
Not looking that great right now.
Here's how bad it is right now at Seton Hall. They're starting Emmanuel Okorafor. He was a bench player for Louisville last year.
Gotcha.
That's how bad it is right now at Seton Hall.
Okay. I recognize the name. Couldn't recognize the name.
I love Manny Okorafor's game. He has such a high motor, and he's very athletic. He's just not good. All right, moving on to the Big Ten.
This is a fun one because honestly, there's 7 or 8 teams that could win this.
This one's wide open.
This is as wide open as it gets right now. It is a lot of fun right now. I mean, if you're taking the hot hand right now, is either Michigan or UCLA. That is probably what the hot hand is right now.
Both teams that just lost last week.
They both did. Yeah, I know. Maryland's looking good. But personally, I'm still riding with Illinois. I think Will Riley's a tremendous freshman. They got decent depth.
Kylan the thing with Illinois is I was so high on them because of the transfers they brought in with Kylan Boswell,
Good point guard.
Trey White, and Ben Humrickhouse.
Yeah.
And Kylan Boswell has been so good. I mean, that's the reason why I was so high on Illinois and so low on Arizona. It was because of Kylan Boswell.
And it's also interesting, even with the injuries, Purdue has been serviceable. This is like the Big Ten right now does not have a top 10 team, in my opinion, but they have every team that's in between the 10 and 25. Like there's 8 teams here that could be ranked in the top 25 right now, but they don't. There's just not the elite of the elite in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you could honestly pick any of these names for the tournament as well that are within like the top 8 of this conference right now.
I'm gonna pick for the regular season. I'm gonna pick Michigan State.
I don't think it's a bad take.
They have been better than I thought they would be.
Did you see the dunk that what's his name, Cohen? I'll show it to you after the podcast.
I don't think I have seen
it's probably the dunk of the year.
Yeah, Michigan State I'm going to take to win the regular season. To win the tournament, though, this is first time in a little bit I'm departing. I'm going to take Maryland to win a tournament.
I could see it.
I think their style of play, Kevin Willard comes from that Rick Pitino coaching tree of like, we're going to wear you down, and then come the last 8 to 10 minutes of the game, we're gonna have fresh legs, and you're gonna be sucking wind.
So
and I think that is very conducive to tournament play.
Gotcha. I'm going to go with Oregon. I think Trevor Shalstead is going to come into full form at that point in time.
That's not a bad pick. Dana Ullman having a good year after Oregon has been down for several years in a row.
It's fun.
All right, next up, we are going to pick, if I can find, Mountain West. The Mountain West. This feels like a 2-horse race.
I'm with you on that. It's feeling Utah State or San Diego State.
Yes.
On the outside looking in, though, is New Mexico and Boise State, in my opinion, there. And then the rest of the conference.
Colorado, UNLV, and Nevada are well-coached teams. They're just not good this year.
Nevada could be something, but I personally think it's between San Diego State and Utah State. I still think first-year jitters with Utah State. I'm going to lean towards San Diego State here on this end.
Yeah, I'm going to take San Diego State for the regular season and then Utah State for the tournament.
I think it'd be fun if Donovan doesn't go off to sneak in a bid steal for New Mexico.
Second year in a row.
That'd be fun.
That'd be fun, yeah.
Why not?
Next up, the urge to do the Northeast Conference. It's speaking to me, but I'll avoid it. Next up, and this might be the last one we do, but we're going to do. Actually, no, we'll do the West Coast Conference as well. But we're going to do the SEC right now.
Let's do it. I think it's a 2-horse race.
Are you sure?
I really do, because if you look at the undefeated teams in this conference, right now it's Florida and Tennessee, right?
And Oklahoma.
And Oklahoma's undefeated as
Yep.
well? Oh, well, interesting. So I look at it right now, and I go, Auburn's playing lights out. Tennessee is playing phenomenal as well. Florida, though, who have they truly played that has been a major test for them?
Their schedule's not been tough.
So
their best win is probably UNC.
Right, and so I personally think it's between Auburn and Tennessee. Right now, the way it's looking, give me the best player in the nation, Janai Broome. I'm going to lead towards Auburn. If you watched them play Purdue, they beat them by 18, and that's not even, like, close of what the game was. The game was well out of reach, and, like, it's not like they're relying on one guy to go out there and perform. Yeah. Janai Broome's only averaging 63% of minutes this year. The lowest guy on their team is averaging 40%. It is a well-rotated roster. They're not like if one guy gets in foul trouble, they just have another guy off the bench to plug and play. It is kind of scary what Auburn's doing right now.
Yeah, Auburn does look very good. And then Tennessee, Tennessee's undefeated. Auburn has a loss. Tennessee has had a couple games though.
Auburn has
look
a
little
loss against Duke at
Duke. I know.
By 5.
But I'm just saying that they have a loss, but Tennessee has looked shaky a couple times. They had to sneak past Illinois at Illinois.
By 2.
Which
barely,
good win.
It out. To be fair, 2 of the best players fouled out the game and still found a way to win.
Yeah, that's a very
impressive.
good win.
So,
I'm gonna just to be different. I'm gonna take Tennessee.
Okay.
To win the regular season, and then I'm going to take Oklahoma to win the tournament.
No, Oklahoma doesn't have a shot right now. I mean,
Jeremiah Fears is fantastic.
I'm not saying he's not, but also
Elvis is also really good.
like right now, I wanted to say Kentucky had a shot, but then like they just put up a fat egg against Ohio State, so I don't know what to think right now.
Yeah.
Because it was like it's Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, and Kentucky were all your top 10 teams right now. I don't know. I'm just gonna ride with Auburn, ride with the hot hand.
All right. And then we are going to close it out with the West Coast Conference, which has Oregon State and Washington State in it this year.
It doesn't matter. It's Gonzaga's to lose.
Yeah. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think Gonzaga's going to win the regular season. I'm taking San Francisco to win the tournament.
No, San Francisco's not winning the tournament. Give me Gonzaga as well. Even though Graham Ike has looked awful this year, he is not the player that we thought. At least I thought he was. Oh, come on, do some other conferences. I could do all of these.
I mean, I don't know which one you want to do.
Whichever
We've got a ton of pick'ems that we got to get to, though.
Fair enough. Let's get to them.
Okay.
Then. I love college basketball.
I know. I could tell you light up.
I perked up a little bit when I saw conference picks.
Yeah. Okay. We have. God, do we have a lot of pick'ems this week?
Yeah.
So let's try to get through them.
Some up short. We have 18.
Yeah. Let's try to get through these very quick because we've already been going for an hour and a half.
Ooh.
Okay. South Florida versus San Jose State in the Hawaii Bowl. I'm going to take San Jose State.
I'll go South Florida. Don't know anything about these teams.
San Jose State has their first ever unanimous All-American in Nick
cool.
Nash.
That's
Phenomenal wide receiver.
Awesome.
Anyway, Pitt versus Toledo in the Motor City Bowl.
Pitt. Power 5.
I'm going to go with Toledo.
Okay.
Rutgers versus Kansas State in the Cactus Bowl.
Kansas State.
I'm also taking Kansas State. I think they're just going to have a very similar year to they have the last couple.
Okay.
All right, next up we have Arkansas State versus Bowling Green in the Mobile, Alabama. So I think it's the Mobile Bowl.
Let's go Bowling Green.
It's spelled mobile, but I think it's Mobile.
Mobile, Alabama. It is.
Okay, so in the Mobile Bowl, I'll go Bowling Green as well.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Oklahoma versus Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl.
They did beat Army, but still give me Oklahoma.
Give me Navy.
Okay.
Give me Navy. I think it's going to be more roster continuity. Next up, we have a revitalization of. Do you know what this rivalry is called? Because these both used to be SEC opponents.
Really?
Yep.
The Shitty Colors Bowl.
No, it is. So Georgia Tech versus Vandy in the Birmingham Bowl. Their rivalry is called Battle of the Nerds. Yep. I'm going to take Vandy.
Yeah, I'm taking Vandy.
I think I really, really like Georgia Tech. I just think Vandy, I just think their style of play, they're going to be able to control the game, just like running the ball. It'll be close, though. I think this will be a good game. Next up in the Liberty Bowl, we have Texas Tech versus Arkansas. This is a tough one because I think both of these teams kind of suck.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're just meh. Give me Texas Tech.
I guess give me Arkansas. Yeah, give me Arkansas, but I really don't like this game.
Nope.
Next up, we have Syracuse versus Washington State in the Holiday Bowl.
Give me Syracuse.
Oh, my God. By a million, give me Syracuse.
There you go.
They don't have a coaching staff or a quarterback.
Nope.
Give me Syracuse. Now we have USC versus Texas A&M in the Las Vegas Bowl.
There's a smoking gun at USC, like we talked about before. Give me A&M.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, and that house is on fire right now.
And where there's fire, it burns.
I mean, it's true. Give me A&M in the Vegas Bowl. UConn versus UNC in the Fenway Bowl. This is a really interesting one.
It's weird.
Give me UConn.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. I think a lot of bowl games, it kind of just comes down to who's more motivated.
Yeah. Who's got the juice?
And UConn, they're sitting at 8-4 right now. If they win, they have a 9-win season.
There you go.
Next up, in the Pinstripe Bowl, these are the two bowls that are played in MLB stadiums. Boston College versus Nebraska.
Where's Pinstripe?
Pinstripe is in Yankee Stadium.
Oh, makes sense. Okay. This is a tough one. This should be a fun one. I kind of want to tune into this one.
I'm going to go with Nebraska.
Is Thomas Castellanos playing?
Nope, he transferred to Florida State.
Give me Nebraska.
I'll give you a little preview. As it stands now, I'm starting to think about my top 25 for next year because I like to get like a rough draft going, and then I like to reevaluate it before. I think I'm going to put Nebraska in my top 25.
They could. I mean, five-star quarterback with Matt Rule, a third year coming in. It'd be interesting.
I think I'm going to put in my top 5, and I think this win.
Top 5.
I didn't mean to say that. Top 25. They're actually going to be my number 1 preseason team.
Well, okay.
No, they're going to be my top 25.
You like to eat corn through a picket fence, don't you?
What are you talking about? You call me a horse?
Saying you have some messed up teeth.
I don't. I have pretty teeth.
You never heard that?
No,
Man, her teeth
I've
are so
never
messed
once heard that in my
Her
life.
teeth are so messed up she could eat corn through a picket fence.
We are from the same place. How are you more southern than me?
Oh, that's so funny. I just love that quote.
Never heard that before.
It's funny though, isn't it?
The point was, I think that this win is gonna like carry some momentum into next year for Nebraska.
No, you just like corn.
I do like corn. Anyway. Louisiana versus TCU in the New Mexico Bowl.
I don't know anything about Louisiana. Give me TCU.
Louisiana is 10-3.
Oh, cool.
And TCU is 8-4.
Mm.
I'm gonna go with Louisiana. I don't know. Both of these, I think Louisiana is good. I think TCU is. I think they got an easier schedule. But yeah. Next up, we have Iowa State versus Miami, and so this is the Tangerine Bowl, also known as the Pop-Tarts Bowl. This is going to be a fantastic game, I think.
Really? I'm going Iowa State.
I'm going Miami. I think Iowa State's defense was so good to start the year, and then I think it just kind of it fell off a little bit. I think Miami's just going to hang 40 on them. So, next up we have Miami of Ohio versus Colorado State in the Arizona Bowl.
Give me Miami of Ohio.
Give me Colorado State.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up, we have ECU versus NC State in the Military Bowl. Did you know NC State considers ECU one of their biggest rivals? This is per NC State.
Then give me NC State.
I'm gonna take NC State as well. I don't know. I think ECU made a bad hire, promoting their interim. Personally,
Party school.
it is one of those. Yeah. BYU, the Mormons, versus Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. This is the stupidest bowl matchup.
Yeah,
in bowl season.
it's going to be BYU because if Colorado has a pulse and cares about their futures, their best players won't be playing.
Travis Hunter and Stuart Sanders are both playing in this game.
Give me BYU.
I think BYU's the better team, but just give me Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. Give me Colorado. Next up, this is the replacement game. We got Louisiana Tech versus Army in the Independence Bowl. I mean, Army, like
Army.
what? It's not even close. Give me Army.
That's cool.
Army by 90.
They did lose to the Navy.
And then this, oh my God, this last pick 'em here. This might be the worst bowl game. This might be the worst bowl game.
Why? Because they both have Steelers colors.
No, I don't care about that. Go Ravens. But no, these are two teams with terrible offenses and good defenses. This might be the worst bowl game the whole season.
What are you talking about? It's going to be like 24-21.
Iowa
3
versus
defensive touchdowns on both sides of the ball.
Iowa versus Missouri in the Music City Bowl.
I don't like Cade McNamara, so give me Missouri.
I don't want to pick either of these teams. I don't know. Pick for me.
You're picking Iowa, I guess.
I'm picking Iowa. God, I think this game's going to suck.
Cool.
All right. That's our episode. We hope you watched until the end. We hope you liked it. If you did watch until the end. I'm talking to you, Jacob. And we'll see you next time.